Broadcasting live from the Loading Ready Run orbiting underground moon base. It's the LRRcast. '20th anniversary edition. Hi. Welcome everybody. I'm Graham.
And I'm Paul.
And we're here to continue with episode, 9 of this retrospective podcast. Now looking, broadly speaking, through the lens of 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm. We were so young and innocent back then.
I know.
No idea what was about to hit.
No kidding. We'll talk a bit about that next episode. But back then, you know, we had a bunch of stuff that we were doing.
Yeah.
Among them, we began Dice Friends.
We can give them the spider head and be like, look.
We don't have the spider head yet.
It's right there. Someone has an axe. You could chop it off.
Yeah, just grab it.
Undead spider, though? Would they?
No, that's what they asked for.
Began might be a little tricky.
That's when we named it Dice Friends, because so way back in some early episodes of Commodore Hustle, we had this running gag that Jeremy was this just sort of maniacal dungeon master.
Right.
You enter the elevator. The joints of the veinstone golem driving the platform make a grinding sound as you enter the bowels of the ancient pyramid. Arriving at the bottom, you are shocked to discover you are walking on a river of gold. The wealth of 1,000 kingdoms spreads here before you.
I take it.
Wealth of 1,000 kingdoms? You can't carry that much gold.
Portable hole.
I'm not done the box text. No, you can't save versus box text.
You know, the kind of DM who considers it a competition between the DM and the players.
Right.
To be like, all right, here's my adventure. It's going to kill you all. You know, the kind of.
And you see a couple of like little clips of his games with like Dale is one of his players.
Yeah, Dale, Jess, and Ryan, and
yeah.
Was it mostly just those three folks?
Maybe.
There was like a side stories of the D&D games. And among these were references to this game called Temple of the Lava Bears that he ran for us way back in high school. And that was a reference to the fact that my sort of getting into meeting a bunch of those folks at the time was that Jer had invited me to come over to join their D&D game, which was a D&D game actually that Bill was running, of the Temple of Elemental Evil. Classic.
I think we maybe like touched on that when we were talking to James.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, Temple of Elemental Evil and what's the other one? That's Tomb of Horrors. Is that the one? Yeah, are like notorious for killing players because they're ridiculous.
Right.
And so it was implied that the Temple of the Lava Bears was in the same sort of vein, that it was like this awful thing that Jeremy, this character, had created, and it was, you know,
it's like, will be worse than just bears.
Yeah.
Lava bears. The Temple of Lava Bears, one of the big aspects of it that was mentioned, it had a bottomless pit full of spikes.
Right, yes. Because you could just say stuff and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like anyone has to actually ever make this adventure, do they?
Speaking of which.
Well,
the lava tube pierces towards the heart of the mountain. Fine obsidian ridges reflect and bounce your lights. You guys have someone with a light, right?
We all have lights.
I have dark vision.
I have dark vision.
Dark vision. Dark vision.
Dark vision.
Dark vision.
What do elves have?
Dark vision.
Dark vision.
Dark vision. Do you have a light?
I have a lantern.
Okay, good.
As part of the Kickstarter, for the year of LRR, we had a stretch goal, which was for Jeremy to make and run us through Temple of the Lava Bears. And I think we mentioned in a previous episode that sort of this was early days of actual plays, as they're apparently called.
Yeah.
Obviously the earliest forms of Critical Role, I believe we're still doing stuff like back when it was on Geek and Sundry, and Acquisitions Inc. was a thing, but it was not nearly to sort of the level that it is now with all of these different groups doing things like that.
And it was definitely pre-recorded stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really the trick. Is doing it actually live is tough. Well, despite the success of those other things, Jer was not 100% sure how it was going to actually work because there's a lot of cruft at the table, and doing it pre-recorded was sort of, it allowed him to be like, okay, great. So whenever someone's like, oh, hang on, can I see the rules for a second?
Yeah.
Can I just, okay, so this is, oh, right. Okay. Well, then in that case, what I want to do is, like do this move, cut all that out, right? He really streamlined the combat to get to just the parts that are entertaining, which I think worked really well. So yeah, then in this was in 2014 that we did Temple of the Lava Bears, and Featherweight did a whole bunch of amazing artwork for it, and we did sessions of recording where we'd record 3, I think, episodes in a session of like an hour in length, and usually we would have a guest. There'd be like the main squad, and then also sort of a not an NPC because it was a player, but like a guest player. And then for the finale, which we did do live, all the guest players returned, and it was a whole big thing.
Right.
It was super fun.
If you are in a position where your Ash Cloak does not function, at the beginning of your turn, you take 10d6 points of fire damage for each round that your Ash Cloak has not been functioning. So in the first round, you will take 10d6 points of damage, no saving throw. In the second round, you will take 20. In the third round, you will take 30, and so on.
I am in a lot of trouble.
So this is not, it's not like, oh, there's a lot of smoke around, so you're going to cough.
This is, you are inside a volcano where diamonds are forged.
After that, we did a couple of role-playing sessions as part of AFK.
Right. Yeah.
Cam ran one, I remember.
The Fae probably don't like you just throwing it.
Yeah.
Throwing garbage into the idol is probably not a great idea.
Yeah, it throws back.
Etin.
Yeah, his own kind of world that he had worked out.
Back
and then we did
it. Delta, yeah.
We did a couple of we did some ones. There was like a there was like a heist one that we did where the maker of the set came in.
Oh yeah, Rodney Thompson came in and ran a Dusk City Outlaws.
Hello, am I doing the intro now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hello.
cool.
Sorry, I thought we. Welcome to Dice Friends
Professionalism.
with our friend Rodney Thompson. Rodney, take it away.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah. So we did like a couple other ones, but at a certain point we were thinking about making an actual role-playing stream.
Yeah. We figured amongst the things that we do, this makes perfect sense, right? It's something that we enjoy. It's something that the viewers enjoy. And we run our Twitch channel, which I don't know if we've actually drilled down into sort of like why we run the Twitch channel the way that we do, but we run it like a little TV network.
Yeah, we talked about that when we were talking about the Twitch. Yeah.
And so we figured, well, that makes perfect sense to have a show that is for D&D actual plays.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned it already. I want to shout out to Featherweight that because those were pre-recorded episodes, Jeremy was able to fire the raw recordings over to Featherweight, who could take inspiration from them while Jeremy was editing and draw specific sort of key moments. And Jeremy requested some specific ones as well. Some key moments that then were added through illustrations, which is really cool. And that's the sort of thing you can't unfortunately do when you're doing it live. Oh, I should mention, by the way, that he did get a bottomless pit full of spikes in there.
Yeah.
It was a room with spikes on the floor and the ceiling, but also it was sort of like there was an invisible portal. So if you fell into the spikes,
you basically hit the spikes and then teleported back up to the top and fell and hit the spikes again.
Yeah.
It was nasty.
Yeah. So you figured out a way to make it work. Also, there were lava bears, of course. But we decided, okay, well, let's do a D&D show. Initially, it was explicitly D&D because, D&D at the time was sponsoring folks to do this. And, they were sponsoring the Acquisitions Inc., the C team from Penny Arcade and several other groups. And we contacted them, not as easily as you might think, it's like, but you work with Wizards of the Coast. You've known them for years. No, totally different departments.
Yeah.
Completely different experiences working with them as well. Very, very different. And
so were the first Dice Friends sponsored?
yeah, Escape from Samolo Plateau. And, well, actually, I can't remember if it was explicitly sponsored or if it was just aired on their channel or hosted by them, because you could host at the time, which as a service Twitch has taken away now. We did, I want to say, 3 campaigns with actual sponsorship from Wizards of the Coast. Then they just sort of stopped responding. We just never heard from them again. I think they had a massive staff turnover in the D&D department, at least in the parts that talked to us.
And it was sort of I think also just a pivot, like they
just stopped doing that,
sponsoring anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we pull up a list of
Smolo Plateau with Dale as the DM.
Yeah, and that was the first one that we launched under the banner of Dice Friends. That was when we named it Dice Friends. We were like, what are we going to name this? Oh, I know. This will be a fun thing to call it. And
really trying to emphasize that idea of, rather than like the fight between the players and the DM, right? It's friends getting together and enjoying themselves while occasionally rolling dice.
Yeah. Escape from Samolo Plateau was the first sort of major campaign with myself and Kathleen and Paul and Beach and Dale DMing. And then we had like a little, and that was 10 episodes. It's all sort of varied, the number of episodes, right? Like we've had one-offs, obviously Adam doing the Choose Your Own Adventure books for one session. But then we had Murder on the Samolo Plateau, that Cameron ran.
We're playing this in the world, the continent of Chult in the Forgotten Realms, using a mildly modified version of the 5th edition D&D rules. And by mildly modified, I mean whenever I make a mistake, that's a house rule.
Camp Nettleby that Kathleen ran. Dragon's Orders was Dale coming back with the same...
That was the sequel.
Yeah. With the Avengineers. That was later in the same year. Cameron ran a few of his Eton campaigns. The other big one that was sponsored was, of course, By Law and Order.
You hear this boom. Silence. Crumbling masonry. Silence. Screams. Silence. Wee-er, wee-er, as the very inoften used garrison alarm begins to sound. And suddenly you just hear the PA magically blare to life, and you can hear Blesnort's voice of all things, because apparently this is his job too, and he says, "Whoa, okay, all personnel, code red, report to stations immediately. Code red, Commander Accra to the prisoners' quarters, and today's lunch is tofu a la king, bye."
Which was around the time that we had Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance. So we were returning to Ravnica in Magic, and so as a cross-promotion, they released the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, and they got us to do a 10-episode campaign based on that, which, of course, Kathleen ran in a very sort of Douglas Adams Pratchett kind of vein of this team trying to enact a bylaw to make sausages in Ravnica safe to eat, which is very entertaining. And then in 2020, the other sort of big continuing campaign that we would start would be Not a Drop to Drink, which was Jacob's Vampire the Masquerade campaign, which we've done now a couple times.
I caught you going to a burger joint.
Yeah, I was hungry.
That's not how you feed.
Yeah.
Was the first vampire one was in the theater because we filmed it during the pandemic. It was November. It aired in November, December 2020. I think we shot it in June in the Belfry Theater because they weren't doing anything. Obviously, they couldn't do public performances, and so we rented their space, and everyone was separated at the table, and it was a whole was a whole thing.
Day 2 here at the Belfry for the big Dice Friends shoot. And today it is 3 sessions of Vampire.
It worked out well, honestly. It was super fun, but it's a lot easier to be able to do that stuff in our own studio.
And so, we went back and forth on Dice Friends in terms of streaming and pre-recording.
Yeah.
Like I said, we did the Temple of the Lava Bears pre-recorded, and then initially most of the Dice Friends were streams just because it was sort of part of our streaming schedule.
Yeah, so all the Samola Plateau, by Law and Order, that was all done live.
And as we were doing that, we started to notice certain aspects that weren't so good for streaming. For one thing, Dice Friends was the first of our streaming shows where we realized there was like the setup and the cool down part of the stream, the like welcome everybody and the thanks everybody for watching part, when put together on as a YouTube video, sort of was kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Because you more so than most of the video game streams. In that case, you're really following a story and having these weird breaks where we're thanking people who you don't know who they are.
And especially because for the Dice Friends streams, I can't remember if we fully just turned it off or if we were like, just ignore chat.
We turned it off.
Yeah, because it would make everything take so much longer and it would be very distracting to be talking to chat while trying to do a tabletop role-playing game.
I mean, getting people to focus on the game during a tabletop game is hard enough anyway, right? People are often thinking about, what they're going to do in the next round, or thinking about other stuff or jokes or whatever, and not sort of focusing on the game. Having a chat there, we figured that out pretty early, that having the chat there was a real bad idea.
Yeah.
So we realized that like without the chat there, you don't add that interaction.
Yeah.
So like, what's the point of it being live?
And then it allows us to do things like in the instances where like we don't tend to have, nor do we necessarily remove when someone's like, shoot, I need to check something from the book. But if we have someone get something wrong and then someone's like, actually, that's not the case, we can be like, all right, 1 second, let's roll back 15 seconds and I can say the correct rule or whatever. And then we can smooth those things over and edit them out a little bit. They're not heavily edited. Like Temple of the Lava Bears was fairly heavily edited.
Right.
In terms of, especially because with audio you can do that, especially because Jeremy really drilled down into tightening up combat and stuff. We just don't have as much combat in our campaigns normally. So most of Dice Friends is what we refer to as a top and tail, where you take the recording and you just sort of cut the front off and cut the end off.
And then
it's live to tape as it's called. The Larry Sanders Show?
Yeah.
Live on tape from Hollywood.
Yeah. Or sometimes like while we're recording it, we'll make a note of a couple of little time codes where something went weird, or somebody was like, let me try that differently, or something like that.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that freedom to tidy.
Jacob felt pretty strongly about that too, because Vampire does enter into areas that can be a little uncomfortable for people. You can get into some, theoretically the players are doing bad stuff often,
right? And
it can get into areas that can be quite uncomfortable for players sometimes. And so, Jacob was very concerned, and he was, he's prioritized making the players feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And so the idea that if the game starts going in a direction that we don't want, or that the players are uncomfortable, he could recalibrate and shift that, and we can just edit that part out. And we don't have to like make a big deal out of it. It'll just not be an issue.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think we ever actually used that
not once.
that that option.
Because, as you saw, there was a robust session 0.
You can take some time, and also, like, if you're not like suddenly like, I shout them out here. If you think of anything else, even in the middle of a session, be like, nah, I got another one, or I didn't know that was one. We add it to the list. It's done. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. All right. So that's lines, veils. We already talked about sex. That's fade to black. Romance and flirting is okay, just not between PCs. Do I have that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marvelous.
But yeah, that never actually came up. But it's nice to have that valve.
But it's nice to have that valve, and even just having that, even just knowing that that is an option, gives some more sort of freedom to know that you've got a little bit of a safety net if things do go in a direction that you don't want them to.
Yeah. Also, because of the way that we were filming the first season, when we were renting this theater, we sort of had to do it like, I think, was it 2 or 3 days that we shot the first Not a Drop to Drink?
I think it was 2 days.
I think so, yeah. And so Jacob,
Which it was 6 sessions or something?
I think so, yeah. And he'll say this, that it's like he'll do like marathon DM sessions, right? And so it was a lot of work. I'm not saying it was so easy, but he was fine with that. And the players were fine with that too, but we had to be like, we'll record one, 20-minute coffee break, record another one, hour for lunch, record another one, and just bang, bang, bang. And we did some amount of that for the second season as well. We were trying to do at least 2 episodes in a day. We were under a little less pressure because we were filming in our own studio.
Yeah.
But of course, not every DM sort of works like that. Like, I know that Kathleen and Dale have both said that's not, they can't do back to back, because it's like they need to take what happened in a session, take it away,
and prep the new thing,
and like crystallize what we did so they can bring it back. How Dale gives us enough rope and then gets us with it later, right? He can't sort of do that back to back. And so while still pre-recorded, they don't tend to have that aggressive production schedule,
right?
Because the people involved don't want to do it. My point is, we don't mandate that. Now, as we record this in, coming up on fall 2023, we haven't done Dice Friends this year, and we had planned to. We had plans and hopes and everything, but then
various things happened.
Did you know that I have a strawberry birthmark on the side of my head? I did, but you've just learned something new about my body. Recently, I've learned a lot of new things about my body, and I'm going to share a bunch of it with you now. Please, sit down. Come with me on this journey.
But I love it, and as long as people are keen to do it, I'm sure we will do more.
Because we have, we're independent and we can do basically whatever we want. Our streaming schedule is sort of largely what we, represents what we want to do. But by the same token, looking at the sort of stats for different things does give an insight into what people are interested in watching, and that does impact what we do. You don't want to keep doing something that there's no audience for.
Yeah.
And one thing that I found that especially when we were doing the Dice Friends live, is it did sort of consistently get less live viewers than I felt it should, considering how much effort was going into it.
Yeah.
And part of that feedback we got was that people don't really care about watching it live because there isn't any audience feedback. So they can just watch it on YouTube or whatever, which is great. Like it, it's lets people watch it on YouTube, and whatever way that people want to consume the stuff, that's great. But it did make it so it's like, okay, maybe it isn't that important for it to be live. And then the other thing that happens with the Dice Friends is it's a lot of people. A campaign will be often 5 people, like a DM plus 4 players who have to be available, and if you're streaming, available at the same time every week for like 2 months.
No one's ever had the problem of scheduling 5 people to play D&D at the same time every week for 2 months.
And so
turns out it's no easier when it's your job.
Yeah, so scheduling that was difficult, and especially scheduling like when it was on the streaming schedule, there was an expectation that it would be like every week or every 2 weeks or whatever we had it on the schedule as. And so, we'd be like, oh, we're at episode 8 of this 10 what's the new
episode
Dice Friends thing going to be?
What Dice Friends is happening after this? And
then somebody would be like, oh crap, I need to get my thing ready and stuff. And it was like, you don't want to end up with like this sort of rushed thing either. And so it definitely, we like the idea of Dice Friends being, by making it pre-recorded, it can be, we can do it when the DM and the players are ready, and then we can, lock in a time to do it.
It's a special
that works around everyone's schedule. It doesn't have to, fit into the streaming schedule. And it can be, we can sort of do it in the best way that it can be presented.
Yeah, it's not a weekly thing. It's a special occasion kind of thing. Yeah, no, you're right. I want to back you up with that. I mean, generally speaking, I think that most of our content gets fewer views than it deserves. But thank you for being here. But yeah, Dice Friends especially, I was always like, boy, the people that love this, but
it's like,
I wish we could get more people
2
to
hours,
see it.
especially, some of the sessions we were doing where there were more sort of one-off things. It's like, 2 hours, 3 hours of like, really funny improv that, people could have been watching live and they weren't. Yeah. Made me sad. But that's how it goes, But again, people would watch it on YouTube and things and very much enjoyed it. So that's great.
Yeah. Maybe it's less built for stream. And maybe it is just YouTube content. Who knows? We do make things that are just for YouTube, such as the panelists.
How do you naturally grow Four Loko?
It's a proprietary formula. That's why we're winning this award.
So your goal is just to get everybody crunked on Four Loko.
Yeah.
The Loco Nut?
Yeah.
Full of Four Loko.
Yes.
But a coconut.
Yes.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Which we also launched in 2018, I want to say. That's probably why it's written down. Yeah, April 2018. I love the panelists as well, which will also return at some point. This was inspired by, British panel shows.
As the name would suggest.
Yeah, exactly. The UK and other places, I'm sure, but my experiences with sort of light entertainment from the UK and Japan, they have this all figured out. And North American TV sucks. Like, I don't actually know if we have shows on TV that I would classify as light entertainment. There's the late night talk shows.
And there's like game shows.
Yeah, and there's game shows, but those are different, right? There's no sort of good, to my mind. I don't have cable and I haven't for years, so you can let me know. But when I did, when I was, when I had things that I could watch, there was no sort of good sort of opportunity for, hey, we're going to get a bunch of, reasonably famous known people and just allow them to be entertaining. And then take the best parts and put it and make that a show. It's always incredibly structured and
it's
Yeah.
It's changed a little bit now with streaming and everything, but because part of it used to be that like the North America, you would have the like 22 episode seasons of things.
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK, you'd have like 6 episode seasons.
Of like sitcoms.
Yeah, like sitcoms. So if you were on a 22 episode sitcom, that's all you do forever.
For your whole year. Yeah.
Until that show's canceled.
Yeah.
Because you just are incredibly busy. Whereas in the UK system, it feels like people have a lot more flexibility to do other interesting things.
Yeah, and they need the panel show system. They need, QI and 8 out of 10 cats.
They need the
and
work.
Have I got news for you to bolster up all the comedians between, you can only do so many series of Taskmaster, so you've got to to do something between the seasons of your sitcom. Also, they'll do like a 6 episode of a sitcom, and they'll do the second season like 3 years later.
Yeah.
Right. I kind of love it, honestly.
Anyway, in streaming, we're sort of getting into more of that kind of stuff now.
Yeah. Well, this is also, you mentioned that, and this also, the panelists was when we really started to explicitly experiment more with, a traditional production schedule. It's not the first time we've done it, but we did Feed Dump, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
And Feed Dump was every week. And it was just like, well, it's a YouTube show, and so you do it every week. That's how YouTube. We aren't TV, so that's how YouTube functions. Every week without end until whenever.
Well,
right?
yeah, and that's and at a certain point, we talked about that people started to get tired of Feed Dump.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you know what, we can end this.
Yeah.
But this idea, I think Feed Dump was sort of a inflection point where we were like, because the other thing, of course, is that the time spent to do Feed Dump could be doing other things that we wanted to do more.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, this idea that we sort of really pushed with panelists was that you can, have a cool show that we want to do, record a season of it or a series of it, and then, air that, and like, that's it. That's the thing. And then maybe later on you do another one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to, like, each project you take on doesn't have to be forever.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just be, piling one thing on top of another. You can sort of have discrete pieces.
Yeah, and so this was very much, we're making this show for YouTube. We're going to record over a week. We'll do so many episodes within that time. We'll do multiple recording sessions every day for several days, and then that's it. We've done recording, and then we take all that footage, and then we edit it, and then when we have 12 episodes or however many we had, we go, great, and then we start airing them. And then we air those weekly, but it's a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
Because, there's a limit to how many things you can add that you're always doing every week. And so this was very much Kathleen's brainchild and, baby, I suppose. Like, she was definitely the sort of primary creative force behind it in terms of, certainly the first season, she not only hosted it and did the production, but like wrote all the prompts and everything as well. And I did like the set design or whatever, but it was very much Kathleen sort of pushing for the tone and the style and how the edit came together and everything.
In a lot of ways, I feel like Panelist was sort of the next in the series of, whatever thing, Feed Dump.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, it absolutely was.
The next in that sort of lineage.
Oh, it definitely was. It was, I'm desperately trying to remember any sort of specific, but I am pretty confident that it's like, all right, if we wrap up Feed Dump, what are we doing with that energy?
Right.
And then out of it came the panelists.
And this idea that there's a lot of entertainment to be gained from, putting funny people discussing a thing. This sort of edited improv style.
Yeah. In the second season, Kathleen invited Molly to host it.
Hello, and welcome to the panelists. I'm your host, Molly, bathed in light. And joining me, ensconced in shelves, are 4 experts. To my left, we have Team Cam and Beige. What is your team name?
We've decided to go with Resting Game Face.
She would say, because she sucks at hosting. I would strongly disagree, and I'm the one on the podcast, so I can do that. I think she was great at it. But I also think that her energy was better served as a contestant on that show. And so we invited Molly on to host it, which was terrific.
And much like Vegas, you're the city that never sleeps, but when it does, it shits its pants.
You're playing craps every night.
God damn it!
I picture a Flowers for Algernon style story unfolding in your Netflix list as you incrementally.
Yeah, and then
end up in Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
Episodes of Caillou for 8 hours. That whiny little shithead baby.
He has some very important things to say.
And I'm sure if I watch this episode over again, I'll get it this time, you know?
I'm just a kid who creeps, shits himself and never sleeps. Don't turn your back upon Caillou.
39 episodes in the first season. Oh, and I think the first batch was in two. I think the first season was in 2 chunks.
Yeah, that seems like a lot.
Yeah, and Cameron hosted one, and I hosted one, and Ian hosted one.
Ah.
And those were between. Yeah, because this is over the course of almost a year. This is April 2018.
Right,
to
we did a couple of recording sessions.
February 2019. Yeah, so there's no way that it was like that. But anyway, so the wiki does list the whatever thing and the fail house and feed dump as predecessors.
Yeah, there you go.
So there we are. But yeah, no, Molly's excellent in the hosting chair, and once she came aboard, she and Kathleen also collaborated on the questions.
I have 2 goblets. You probably already guessed that one of them is poison, and you would be correct. But what you didn't guess, it is also the most delicious thing you'll ever taste. The other is not poison, but it is the knowledge of exactly how you will die, with no clue as to when, and it tastes just okay. Choose a goblet for the other team to drink.
It was a lot of fun. It was a great opportunity, much like Feed Dump was, to sort of bring in people who don't necessarily get to do that kind of thing more often, right? Like we had, like Jacob was on some of these. Adam is excellent on the panelists.
Anyway, I'm tapped out of the poop joke, so yeah, I got nothing else.
Time to wipe.
Time to
wipe.
Star wipe. You also got kind of the fun thing of sort of putting pairs of people who might not necessarily be the most obvious pairings together.
Yes.
And you get all sorts of weird, interesting energies.
That's very, very true. Which actually is an amazing segue to
my intention.
The other, good job. It's like you know how to do this. The other big project of that time period, 2018, was of course RoadQuest.
Hey, Beach. I noticed that your car isn't going.
Yeah, it isn't.
Why?
Because it turns over. As long as I have my foot down, it runs.
Okay.
And the moment I take my foot off of it, it dies at idle.
Well, you know what that means, right?
Yeah.
Don't take your foot off the pedal.
Yeah.
Which, it's something I'd wanted to do for quite a while. It was, and I've said this before. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, since watching Top Gear, I would.
Basically, it wasn't the first time I watched Top Gear. Definitely watching some of the Top Gear specials was sort of like, oh yeah, this is super fun. And then the more I watched them, the more I was like, I wonder if we could do something like this. I wonder if we could do something that was like this, but still very much us, and in a different sort of, maybe a gentler tone, perhaps. And yeah, I pitched everyone on it. I was like, hey, this is a thing that I would really, really like to do, and further, I think that we can really do it. And everyone was like, sure, that sounds fun, which is nice. And so, yeah, we spun up production in 2018, and the pre-production for that, I'll say that I'd been Googling and wandering. I've been literally like Google Map wandering tourism, like the street view, looking around places, like figuring out the route, entertaining, trying to figure out not just how to get from point A to point B, but also why these places, I was like, okay, what feels reasonable? And I was basically like, okay, what if we go from Victoria to the Yukon? What if we go up the coast, Dawson City? How long would that take? Okay, that takes this long if you just get on the highway and drive. So if we stop at these sort of intervals and we did it in like 10 episodes, and that would be getting this far every day, that feels reasonable. Why, I'll say the destination came before the theming. Why Dawson? The gold rush. Yes, this makes perfect sense. And then I was like, oh, of course, people heading to the gold rush had to stop in Victoria before they went to the to the goldfields, this actually makes perfect sense. So, that's what we're doing. We're following, so we have like a thematic narrative there, which is nice. And then sort of figuring out interesting ways to go that are not just you get on the highway and you go because there's only the one road. And then sort of, so I had like all that in my head beforehand.
And doing Strip Search and doing various other shows that we had up until now really informs that, that this, like, if it says, on the map that it's going to take whatever 8 hours to drive somewhere.
Yeah.
That's 2 days.
Yeah.
You might not think 8 hours is 2 days, but when you're filming, that's 2 days.
Yeah. Like I can tell you right now that like the Apple Maps, if I look at the driving directions are not available because of current road conditions. That's very funny.
Don't drive is the current situation.
Can I go from Vancouver? No, I can't. I actually can't drive to Dawson City right now. I can't get driving directions. But anyway, the point is it's much faster than the show actually took, obviously. Right. Gosh, yeah, the pre-production for this. We shot it in May 2018, but prior to all of that, we did the Kickstarter. Not really Kickstarter, but we did we
did a crowdfunding.
Yeah, we did the pitch. And the thing is the pitch pilot was also really useful as a test, just as like a tech test for us. Like Jason, who we mentioned.
It's all fucked.
Also worked on Strip Search. He flew in for that so that he could be a part of that, and we'd really sort of like figure out how we want to do this. And he had a drone because we didn't have our own at that point, and we're like 2 cars. It's cars you already own. We'll do this in a day, and we'll turn this into like just a however long it takes thing, just to sort of, try to get like the tone across and figure out what it is that we want to actually do, and also then use this as a pitch to crowdfund for the actual thing.
Right.
Which we did, again, not via Kickstarter, but just via like, please just give money to our PayPal and flag it appropriately.
We obviously we had done the Kickstarter before and we had the Patreon and stuff. But we wanted to, because Kickstarter is like, if you get the money, you do it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
And the amount of pre-production and effort that had gone into this, and honestly, the way that Loading Ready Run is structured, or was structured and is structured, we're like, we are going to do this.
Yeah.
And like we were upfront with everybody, like we are going to do this.
Yeah.
But if we can get money, we can do it, the version that we really want to do.
Yeah, which is what we did.
Yeah, which was, it was wonderful that people really jumped onto that. Because it's
otherwise it would have been either using our own cars or renting cars, and then we wouldn't have been able to like do funny stuff with them.
Yeah.
Right. It's much more fun to have to like buy used cars and all the things that come in with that, and then also how long we were going to do it, literally how many cameras, whether or not Jason was going to be able to be involved. There's all sorts of things that just we're going to do something. It would be much, much better if you can help us out with this.
Yeah, yeah.
And it worked. It worked really, really well. And so then, we put together, pairs of folks who might not necessarily be the pairs that you would imagine. Like, obviously, it's like, oh, Beej and Ian are going to be there? Well, we'll put them in the same car. Like, no. We know Beej and Ian get along. They've done road trips.
Right.
I want to see other people,
Yeah, yeah.
And it worked really well. It ended up that like, I think it was the first night we're like, well, we have this many rooms with this many beds. How are we going to split up? I don't even think we talked about it before getting to the first town. Maybe I'm wrong, but we were like, I guess just the driver and co-pilot just share a room, because why not? Everyone, so there was a lot of bonding there, and it was never. It's funny. It was never intended this way, because of course originally I wanted Kathleen to be one of the participants as well, and I mentioned before it was. I don't know exactly what the cast list was, but I had hoped for Kathleen and Cameron to be involved, and then it ended up that wasn't the case, and love how it turned out, obviously, but it became this like just sort of really an example of like a really nice positive masculinity road trip. It was just like bunch of dudes having fun. And so, yeah, basically my pitch for it, and I think I said something similar in the trailer, was like,
RoadQuest is the loading ready run take on a road trip adventure. Because why should 3 British dudes get to have all the fun? Why not 6 Canadians?
right, was basically, that's how that's how I was describing it at the time. It was an amazing thing to film. It was 10 days of filming on the road.
Sorry, I suddenly just had a vision that when the guys started Top Gear, they were probably in their 40s.
I think so, yeah.
Or possibly younger than us.
Maybe.
Anyway,
I should mention we also had a sound guy that he's a professional that we hired, right? So we haven't really talked about him too much because like he has his own life, like he doesn't work here. He's not sort of in our sphere. But I was like, I will if I have to, but I really shouldn't be the one also monitoring the sound while trying to do the directing and stuff. And thank God, because I was also like filming things and all that stuff. Like it was a very slim crew. And so I went to the Canadian or the Victoria Film Commission website
really?
and just looked through, they're like, yeah, here are the people who live in town that do contract sound work. And there was like 5 of them that the admin at the commission were like, well, these guys all are available and can do that kind of work, and here are their profiles. And I looked, and one of them had linked his social media, and so I went to Jay's Facebook and saw that he was not a piece of shit, and I was like, great. Like that, honestly, I was like, look, if they can all do the job, then I want to find someone who I just know isn't gonna be an outward butthole. And no, Jay was great. Jay was actually there's a show on, I think it was on the Discovery, maybe it's probably canceled now, called like Jade City, which is based on, it's near Cassiar. There's a jade mine, and on the highway there's like the World of Jade or whatever is like this just shop at the side of the road where you can go and buy things made of jade or whatever, and they had a reality show made about them. And Jay watched that reality show and he was like, oh my god, World of Jade. Like he was like fanboying as we were driving by. The rest of the folks are like, Urbex in an abandoned town, and Jay's like, Jade World. It was very cute.
Nice.
It was really funny. He and his wife watched it apparently.
Did he know what he was getting into?
No. I mean, I explained the job ahead of time. We met him several times before we left. But
I mean, considering you guys didn't really know what you were getting into, in a lot of ways.
He was just there to do the job, and he did the job great. He had a blast. I mean, there were struggles, and maybe we'll talk with Serge a bit about some of that later. But fundamentally, it was a good experience. After the end, Alex and Ben and myself flew back from Dawson on a very small plane. And Jason and Jay did as well, because of course, like in Jay's case, he's a professional contractor, and he's got his day rate, and same with Jason. And it's like, all right, well, we don't need you anymore, so bye. And the others drove back down, and it took them almost 2 days. You stopped overnight once on your way back down?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's a lot faster.
I honestly can't remember. I think it was 1 or 2 nights.
Yeah. So we have footage from that you'll see at some point. And it's people tell us all the time how much they love the show and how often they rewatch it, and it means a lot. I have a theory though, because if you look at the viewership numbers on the show, and this is not like before, I think it has received appropriate viewership that I very much appreciate. But what is interesting to me is that the last episode has the fewest. And I think part of that obviously is, like just people trail off. But I would suspect that some amount of that is that people don't want it to be over. Because I do that.
I thought that you were going to say the Hot Springs episode has the most views.
It fluctuates in a kind of a funny way, actually. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, so the first episode has the most, obviously, because that's episode 1, and then it is like fairly consistent, but it jumps up and down by like 5,000 to 15,000 views depending on the episode, and then the last one has the fewest considerably, and I which is a shame because there's some amazing drone shots in that episode. But yeah, I definitely think that some of it is just if you watch that one, then it's over.
That's fair.
Yeah. And people have asked, and I should say, people have been like, hey, so, like Rogue Quest 2, man, we'll talk about it next episode, but if there hadn't been a pandemic, there probably would have been by now.
I know we say this a lot about a lot of stuff, but it is certainly something that the reason why it hasn't happened isn't because we don't want to do it.
No. It's, in the same way that we see people online talking about developing video games, being like, well, why doesn't this one have a multiplayer mode? How hard is that? Just like, you've made multiplayer games before. Just make a multiplayer mode for this game, right?
Just click the checkbox that says multiplayer mode.
Exactly. And so it's like, just make another Road Quest then. Come on, Loading Ready Run. If you want to make another Road Quest, just make another Road Quest. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's not as simple as that. Stay tuned. We would like to do that, but currently, no plans. But we do have plans to talk to Serge and Wheeler. So I think we should do that.
Alrighty.
So yeah, let's throw it over to us with Serge and Wheeler. Enjoy. All right, and now we are here with Serge and Wheeler.
Say the line.
Okay, for this I'll say the line, even though it's been on summer vacation.
Oh,
I didn't know you've been taking a break.
I noticed you had, but I didn't know it was like a conscious thing. Are you over the line?
No, never.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Lovely. See, I didn't know that you'd temporarily gone off it, so I was leaving the pause there, and then I just looked silly.
I just stopped doing it because it's really funny to catch people off guard, and then I had not only did commenters be like, "Is something okay?" I had someone DM me being like, "Is something okay? Like, are you doing all right?" I know this.
Are you not happy to be there? What's wrong?
I mean, that's how I took it. It was just like,
not thankful to be had.
It's like the one of those warrant canaries where it's like you can't say that you're not happy to be there. You just stop saying that you are happy to be there.
I like that. This
Perfect.
segues perfectly into a new segment, which is what is my catchphrase? We don't.
It's that squeaking noise you make sometimes.
But I can't do that by way of introduction. Serge, I can't do it on demand.
You can't do it on demand?
No, it's a hiccup. It's a perfectly ordinary human noise, and it's involuntary.
Okay.
Sure. Anyway. Yeah, today we are talking with Serge and Wheeler about your relationship with Loading Ready Run, your experience with the site, starting with
Serge.
Yeah, how did you learn about Loading Ready Run?
How did I learn about
very good.
Damn, I almost nailed it. So my introduction to Loading Ready Run is one of my favorite stories, and I've told before, but there's a good chance people haven't heard it. I was in university. I had a very dear friend who approached me one day and said, Serge, you're sad, lonely, and nerdy. I have another friend who's sad, lonely, and nerdy. You should get together and play with your little figurines. And that was Warhammer 40K. And I was set up on a blind date with Cameron. We hit it off. I was playing Space Marines. He was playing the Imperium, the many little humans.
I mean, that's
Imperial Guard.
Yeah,
Imperial Guard. Thank you. And that year, he was the volunteer coordinator for Desert Bus for Hope.
Oh, okay.
And got me in to be a site volunteer. And it just so happened that there was some overlap. I worked at the parsonage, and y'all were regulars at the parsonage.
Mm-hmm.
I ran magic events, and y'all were regulars at magic events. And, And then I had this personal connection with Cameron, and that sort of opened the door.
I remember there was a period where, some of the places that I went to, like quite often, like the parsonage,
QVs,
QV, the Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
You were working at all of them. And then I remember I went to like Foo one time and you were there. And I was
I picking up some shifts there too. What? Yeah. Well, the owner played Magic.
And
so,
it was like one of those like video game in jokes where like the storekeeper's always the same guy.
No matter what store you go to.
Yeah.
That was great. So yeah, so it was in sort of via Desert Bus because then we knew you. The rest of us had gotten to know you from Desert Bus, and then when we were filming, I want to say it was the first episode of Proper Friday Nights,
The return.
Yeah, that we were like, hey, can we film in the coffee shop?
Okay, do you know why it's called eggs? Because I do not get that at all.
Oh, totally. Hey, Serge, do you have an egg I can use?
Sure.
Had you playing the guy who works at the coffee shop because you were the guy who works at the coffee shop.
Yeah, the egg scene.
It's the egg.
That was my actual cafe when I was actually done closing for the night.
Yeah.
And I was filthy because I had worked a full 8-hour shift and done the closed. And then they came and I learned some important lessons. One, every refrigerator will get picked up on a boom.
Oh God.
So you have to it's so loud in there, the constant hum. And two, there's a very important reason why bartenders and baristas are only ever cleaning, like wiping stuff with a rag, because anything you touch, like ceramic, if you try and make a drink, if you try and do anything, it'll also get picked up. So like pretend you're working in the background, but don't do any work and I have to unplug all your fridges.
Yeah.
We did, we talked about the Vancouver Island Short Film Festival, at least I think we did, that Johnny, who also is involved with Desert Bus, founded or co-founded with John and ran for many years up in Nanaimo, and we entered many things there over the years. But one year we were there, and there was a sketch that someone else had submitted about filming video. And they did this thing in the video where they were like, oh, we're getting noise from the fridge. Hang on, let me turn the fridge off. And they turned off the fridge and chucked his keys into the fridge. And in the video, the other character was like, why have you done that? And it's like, well, so I can't leave without remembering to turn the fridge back on. And you should have seen the 6 or 7 of us in the row from Loading Ready Run. We're all just like, oh my God.
That's pretty good.
Wasn't the video actually, I think the guy was like a plumber or something, or an electrician or something.
Maybe
like,
it was
another
something.
reason for him turning out the
I can't remember,
anyway,
but
whatever it was. Yeah,
we've left up until that point. We had left so many fridges off overnight because we've been like, that's loud from the compressor.
Now we just leave keys in the fridge and then have to go back and get
them. I left my keys.
You get
in the
home,
fridge.
you're like, no.
Turns out there's so many fridges. When we were filming those, we did talk about this in the previous episode. We were filming those training videos for Serious Coffee on location at Serious Coffees. It was like a hunt to find. It was like what's still on.
And it's one of those weird things where when the shop is sort of active,
you don't notice it.
Falls into the background. You don't really notice it, but then.
So technically speaking, was that your first Loading Ready Run video appearance, Serge?
So I think my first Loading Ready Run appearance was the Desert Power sketch after Desert Bus 6.
That is correct.
And that was 2011? November?
I don't know.
2012?
Sure.
Yeah, dude. Why not?
It all blends together.
I'm actually right about that?
I think so.
Because there were 3.
Sorry. You are correct about Desert Power, yes.
I was. Amazing. Because other things I thought it could have been, and I was confused for a while. My other guess was going to be I held boom, and I was in the stinger for Everything is Fine.
What?
I've got a package here for Lars Gerhardt.
Lars Gerhardt was never here. Everything is fine.
Right. I remember
that.
Yeah. That was the first video that you helped out on.
I believe so. I don't know if it was that or the return, like the whole chronology of that area. It's been a while.
And then how did we, because this is the part that I'm always bad at remembering, how did we go through the process of absorbing you into doing more and more stuff? See, you don't remember either.
No, there's a couple of...
I know there's certain inflection points, but what were they?
So probably the first biggest introduction I had was Kathleen reached out to me for Feed Dump.
It's Serge's very first feed dump, and what would a feed dump be without a guessing game? Serge and Alex, can you guys figure out how a burglar in Minnesota got caught?
Just knocked himself unconscious for literally no reason at all.
Robbed a gun closet, shot himself because they left the gun loaded. It's America.
According to police reports, a Minnesota man came home, found his house unlocked, cash and a bunch of valuable items missing, and the burglar's Facebook profile open on his computer. What a fucking idiot!
Did he check in with Foursquare?
Oh, yeah.
And there was a push from her to start getting more and more I want to say talent, and so she reached out to me. She actually reached out to Jono.
Oh yeah.
And I think she also reached out to Amy from the Magic community as well.
Yep.
And my schedule just worked out better, and so that became like a semi-regular thing. I would be on probably 1 to 2 a month, kind of indefinitely.
Yeah, we had a lot of people on Feed Dump over the years that were just there for like 1 or 2 episodes. People from like locals, people that we knew that were sort of like, this person seems funny.
It was a neat kind of sort of low impact way to kind of test people out in some ways, I guess.
And I should say, there's plenty of people that were on 1 or 2 episodes of Feed Dump that you at home never would have seen again. Not for any reason of
no
of
they
lack
failed the
of
Feed Dump test.
lack of skill on their part.
Not
Yeah, I
up
didn't
to
know.
snuff.
Just because they were like, yeah, that was fun, but I have my own life, and we were like, all right, cheers, or they were just visiting town or something like that. But yeah, right, I forgot about that. So yeah,
And
sort of bringing you in
then-
a Feed Dump, and then you become someone who is around
Yeah.
in the rather threatening way that Loading Ready Run tends to absorb people that hang around.
So there's sort of 2 lanes. There was the greater content thing. There's always been the Magic thing.
Yeah.
So you had me on early Tap Concedes. Like Alex brought me on one so we could talk about Highlander, and I think that was the first mention of Highlander in Loading Ready Run.
Right.
It was a Tap Concede in Studio 3.
Welcome, everybody, to Tap Concede. We have a slightly different lineup than usual this week. I'm Graham. I'm still here, and Paul is still here with me.
Hello.
But James and Kathleen are not, and instead we have our friend Alex, who you may remember from a variety of things, such as Friday Nights and Desert Bus and Crap Shots and
Previous
Loading
Tap
Times.
Concede as well.
And oh, right, I wasn't there for that one.
Yeah,
No,
I snuck in
That was a LRRcast, wasn't it?
Maybe it was.
I don't know. Anyway, and also our friend Serge is here.
Moonbase 3, yeah.
Moonbase 3. Why did I say Studio?
It's like a double-digit episode.
Yeah,
it occasionally pops up in my recommended.
Yeah, it's an old one,
Yeah.
and Alex really championed that, and then we kind of went from there. And then I think you did your first Magic stream after the 2013 Kickstarter. It was a Commander game, and I just started volunteering to judge. And so it begins.
Now you see we have the wide shot, and we've got my draft over here. Am I decently positioned for that, Paul?
I believe so, yes.
And am I good?
You guys, the monitor's down there, so you can't.
You're holding it sideways, James.
Yeah, you're good.
There you
James.
go. The other way. Do it right, idiot.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And I just kind of help out, and I'd be around and just help
And then-
with the game.
That would have also been from Moonbase 3.
Yeah.
then I guess.
And then, of course, when we started doing the PPRs,
Yep. Yeah.
you would come in. I mean, at that point, initially, you were judging the whole thing by yourself.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah, that was a mistake. We've learned some important lessons
yeah.
from the PPRs over the years. But yeah, me solo, and there were no chat judges, so I was also watching chat and answering all their questions and trying to do all the table calls. And then we didn't have the no edge cases rule either. So Paul would be like, "Hey, there's an interesting question from chat here," and I'd be like,
We weren't helping. We would definitely like any question
Okay.
from chat be like, how did this card interact with this other card from Legacy? And we'd be like, hey,
after
Serge.
after the first couple PPRs, we figured that.
"Oh yeah,
part
yeah."
out.
We learned quickly,
Figured
and I was
that
like,
out, yeah.
I cannot keep up with this. This is too much work. It's such a long day." We'll skip ahead quite a few steps here to become full time. I think it was PAX South. You and I were at a PAX South together, and I was finally like, "Graham, let's have dinner. Am I a Loading Ready runner or not?" And you're like, "That's a good question. Do you want to be?" And I was like, "Yes." And you're like, "Congratulations." And it finally took that moment, because there's that thing where like kind of a real story that talks about sort of an awkwardness that I had for a long time.
Yeah.
Was one of my first PAXs. I think it would have been around 2013, 2014. And I had been in videos, but I definitely wasn't a member of Loading Ready Run. I was a friend who helped out, and that's all I wanted to be at the time, because I had a career, I had a job. I didn't want to do videos all the time, and I was waiting in line to see the Loading Ready Run panel at PAX, and everyone came up to me and is just like, "Why are you here? You're supposed to be in there." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And then suddenly, I really felt like I didn't belong anywhere there. Because I didn't know Lure well enough to be like, "Hey, can you just like let me in and skip the lineup?" Because there's sort of like that queue. I was just like, "No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a bother. I'll just wait in line." And then the line was just like, everyone's just staring at me, just like, "What's he doing here?"
Okay, so obviously I have a unique perspective on this. in that it has never been an issue for me as to whether or not I am in Loading Ready Run. So I'm approaching this from a position of massive privilege, but because I know that this has been a thing for many people over the years. I'm sure both of you have experienced this at different times, and everyone has. But the issue that we get is like, we do have that thing where our lovely viewers, hello to you at home, are so you're so hype and excited about just anything. And I like to think that generally speaking, we're not going to have folks in videos or making appearances or whatever who are not cool people. We sort of pre-vet by hanging out with people ahead of time before we invite them on to do stuff. And so you get in the situation where someone appears once and then the viewers go, oh, that person's in Loading Ready Run. And it's like, hold on. They're a friend of ours. They're visiting. They have their own life elsewhere. We just thought it'd be fun. They thought it'd be fun. They're not suddenly in the crew, right? But then what happens if they live in town and they show up a second time? And then it's like, well, no, they're not, it's like, well, no, they're not really in the crew. They're just, like they're a friend of ours and, and like, yes, we're paying them to do this and, whatever. Cause of course we like to pay people, but it's not, we're not, and then sort of like, how many times, right?
6
I don't
months
have a good
go by
answer.
and you're like,
yeah.
uh-oh.
We've had people explicitly be like, I want to do this. I'm friends with you guys. I am happy to do this. I would love to make this appearance. I want to be clear. I am not part of Loading Ready Run. I am doing this appearance. I have my own thing. Please tell people about my personal social media and stuff. That is, this is a separate thing, and we're like, great, absolutely. But then even some of those people over time are like, well, I guess I kind of am, aren't I? And I never know how to handle this.
There's no application.
No.
It's not like there's a job posting, looking for internet clown.
And we've never hired. We've never been like, we need this position. Maybe we should do that.
Wait, they didn't come up to you and say, finally, we found an internet clown. Oh.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay, sir.
I mean, so your being brought aboard was a little more intentional
and cleaner. It felt very like
formal.
Yeah, like, okay, Wheeler is now here for all the magic stuff. He's got his own stream he does every Sunday night, and then going forward, this is sort of the deal.
Yeah, I mean this in a way that hopefully won't get me into trouble, but it felt like a job application.
Yeah.
Like actually, like a proper, like, you're doing this thing, let's bring you on.
And I think that's probably indicative of, you being one of the more recent sort of additions to the crew. And hopefully we are a little bit more sort of on top of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially
company-like. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and also, when you get to the point where you start having to think about salaries and medical plans and this kind of stuff, it does actually make a big legal question
That's
about
true.
where someone is on that line.
Yeah.
It's not just a sort of a general idea.
Cameron and I have the same answer to this question that gets brought up a lot, where I think it was even on an Ask LRR, we both answered the same way of like, when did you feel like you were a part of LRR, like officially a part?
Yeah.
And our answer is like a month ago when I officially signed on to be a member.
Right.
Yeah.
So benefits then.
Yeah, benefits.
Yeah, cash. Cash is when I started thinking of this as a full-on thing.
Yeah, when the bennies kicked in.
Yep.
Where it's like, I mean, that's the whole actual stamp on paper moment.
So you were aware of us beforehand, and let's talk about that. But it was very much that the North 100 podcast had started with Serge and Alex and Jeremy White and Liam. And Liam moved away. And whatever energy Liam brought to the podcast in that fourth spot needed to be continued.
Yeah, we needed a degen.
Right. And the thing is, I remember at the time that you were like, how about Benjamin Wheeler? And I was aware of him enough that I was like, oh, yeah, he definitely has the right sort of vibe. But I don't remember, was it just from hanging around Yellow Jacket?
Well,
how did I?
He'd been in Friday Nights.
Yeah, he'd
prior
been
to
in that
as
one
well.
Friday night.
One Friday night.
Pre-releasing.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is a name and a
Yeah.
term that we don't use as much anymore.
That
for
is
reasons.
indeed your first video on my list here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome everybody to the Magic 2014 pre-release. My name is Ben. I will be your head judge and your tournament organizer, and we will be having a 5-round Swiss event where you will be getting 6 packs of Magic 2014 to construct a sealed deck. All right, let's get started.
What was first, North 100 or the egg video where I grabbed you because we did an extra person and
North 100?
It was North 100.
Yeah.
There's that moment where I was like, I should call Wheeler and we should get him in on this bit, and you and I threw an egg off a roof together.
All right, my precious egg child.
Go well, Serge.
Go to your home, right in the basket.
Oh, no, the wind! Oh, God, the wind! Oh, the wind!
It's fine. It's fine. We prepared for this. You can return this bad boy to the grocery store. Look at that.
This works anymore. I'll do my best.
If I may, I would say that was an inflection point for Wheeler. And I think you and I have actually talked about this previously, because before it was basically Wheeler does North 100 and then occasionally a Friday night paper fight or two, I think, maybe. But we were like, hey, we're doing this thing for live. And you were like, yeah, I'd like to raise my hand for that. And it was like, oh, sure, why not? And then that was kind of like, oh, right, of course. Wheeler can be funny and entertaining.
Yeah, I've got
things
yucks.
that aren't just Magic.
Yeah, I did improv. I've got yucks. I've wrote jokes. I can honk my horn.
And I mean, I definitely remember Wheeler coming on and being, being really up for stuff. Like sort of going out for AFKs and CTS and different things.
I'll do anything.
And also being a very positive force in those places. Being like, when I'm looking at, like, we're running an AFK or whatever, and I'm looking at who's going to be on it, and I see that Wheeler's on it, I'll be like, that's good. He's going to be, that'll be good energy there. We started calling you more often to do stuff like that, and obviously, especially with Magic stuff.
Yeah.
So you just became sort of vaguely aware of us through Yellow Jacket, right?
I mean, I joked about this before we started recording, but it was mostly through washing members of LRR at pre-releases. Either the ones I was like head judging, or the ones that I was participating in. I have a very fond recollection for an event where I kicked Adam's ass, and James was sitting right next to us, and James started laughing and doing like, haha, you lose. And then I played James next round, and I washed that man clean. And then, just stuff at the shop too. Like, even if I wasn't, before after Jeremy moved, I took over like judging some of the events, and like I would come in on like a day for Ed. But even before that, I mean, it's YJ. It's the third place. And so I was there a lot, and I'd see some of you at F&M and just coming into the shop to buy product and then leave.
And then occasionally also when we were filming Friday nights, even if you weren't in it, sometimes you were like the staff member who was around.
I just have
I
a
didn't
key.
feel like waiting around.
Yeah, I had a key before I even worked there.
Ed was pretty chill about
I
a lot of stuff,
I haven't worked there for 4 years, and I have a key.
Neat.
It's just, once you're YJ family, you're always YJ family.
Once you're here, you're family.
Yeah.
And so we were just like some folks, and you were in that one episode of Friday Nights, like we mentioned, because again you were around, and so it was like, hey, let's get Wheeler in this. But then then brought you on for North 100.
You started streaming yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like around the same time as you started doing stuff for us.
I started doing North 100 in September 2018, and I started streaming on February 27th, 2019.
Okay.
That was
So
very
Twice every-
specific. Holy moly.
Yeah, I had to process through that a little bit. Or maybe it was March 3rd. No, because the 5 days. I think 5 days. Ignore me. Yeah, you had to stream a certain amount of days to get affiliate.
Right.
And then-
Yeah, okay. So so you were just sort of like, all right, I've got this thing with Loading Ready Run, and now I'm going to try and make doing content the thing.
Well, people just told me I should stream, and I was working a job that I hated, but also just like gave me enough time that after working my job I hated, I would go home and want to do something I liked, which was magic and talking to people like a human being. That's also a very weird cadence for saying human being.
Human being.
Hello. So I started doing it for fun, and then after a week, it was like, you could be an affiliate. And I'm like, okay. And then after 2 weeks, it's like, you could be a partner. I was like, okay, I'll apply. And I'll never forget this. Jordan was in town, and I was telling him the story, and like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, I was like, yeah, I applied for partner. Like, I don't know what that does. And he's like, turns to me full body, like, you're not going to get it. That's okay. You're going to apply again, and you're not going to get it a second time. And he was very like just setting expectations of like, not going to get it, dude. It's okay. It's whatever. And I'm like, okay. Then I got it. And funny, I always like to tell this. When you fill out the application, it says like, are you affiliated with any other channels, or have you made content with any other channels? And me would be like, no. And after I did it, everybody's like, when I got it, people were like, oh, well, you must have mentioned North 100, or like, did you be like, oh, I've done things with, check out this channel. I'm like, no, it wouldn't feel genuine.
Oh God. You know what's annoying is I've tried to do that from the other side. Like because for a period of time, a bunch of different folks who were contract or part-time salaried for us were doing exactly that. They were also home streaming and trying to make partner. And I contacted our Twitch affiliate, and I was like, is there anything we can do to grease the skids from our end? That these are people who work for us on a partnered channel who's been partnered for nearly a decade. Is there anything we can do to help them make partner on their home streams? And they were like, get out of here. Never talk to us again. Like they were like, absolutely not. And I was so annoyed. I was like, ugh.
I do remember lots of people I knew who were Twitch streamers were like, you see how fast Wheeler made partners?
So there was this. So Adam, Ben, Cam, and Jordan all have sort of a similar story of basically building their home channels from the ground up. Like they had a head start from Loading Ready Run stuff, but like as the first sort of like core group of home streamers, they kind of had to start from scratch and do a lot of work. And it took them all, I want to say on average, 2+ years each.
Jesus.
To hit partner.
Wouldn't be me.
And then when I started home streaming, kind of a similar situation to Wheeler, I was getting totally burnt out from working in the tech industry. I was really unhappy. I was like, great, I'll start a 20-hour side project. That's a great idea. And then I hit partner in 2.5 months. And everyone's like, oh, that's great. And then I was like, yeah, I recognize that, this is in part due to, my OGs sort of paving the way. And then Wheeler shows up and is like, nah, all me, skill diff. Like,
I mean, I was going to give you credit. Serge did help me out a lot early on, because I think I like the first stream I like booted up OBS. I'm like, hey, Serge, you stream. How? Like, what do I do?
How do I do?
I had like a sticky note. Like I just would do screen capture or display capture with like the sticky note app. Just that's how I would track stuff like subs and everything. And it was, frankly, a little embarrassing looking back at it and just being like,
you got to start somewhere. You got like you. I don't know. A lot of people getting started off, they want to get everything perfect. They're like, nah, just get online.
Yeah,
and you'll figure out what you need and what works for you. Right?
This is like the classic survivorship bias, because it's like I got it in 2 weeks. You can do it too. But it's the like, I don't know, if you're in a sea of like, what's up, gamers, and that's what you're trying, like right out the gate, like I don't know, you're just gonna get kind of washed away. Like the sticky note and just, it looks like crap, but there's some charm to it, right? There's some goofs. There's some laughs.
We have fun here.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, especially during that, I mean, you know, obviously people, lots of people are still doing home streams and stuff. But in particular during that time, you know, again, it was sort of a transitional period for Loading Ready Run, Bionic Trousers Media and Loading Ready Run, trying sort of bringing in more, you know, setting people up with trying to actually bring in people as employees and salaries or contractors and doing all that stuff. And as you know, as much as we hate the work for exposure thing, there's a period where it was like, you know, we have these people who are working for us on a contract basis, you know, maybe once or twice a week or once a week or a couple times a month. And, you know, that's all that we need from them and we can pay them for. But one thing we can do is, you know, push people to different Twitch, you know, to other Twitch channels.
Yeah, like the home stream command
tell people about the home streams and stuff and try to enable them to build their own thing. And I've always been quite fascinated about that, the way, like, there's this neat kind of crossover of, you know, you get the little bit of sort of a head start by, you know, there's a lot of crossover with Loading Ready Run fans, but then everybody's home stream becomes its own
little community.
thing.
Yep.
And a lot of people, you know, might not care or know about Loading Ready Run at all.
I have
who are you know, watching you for you, which is really cool. Like, and there's probably some cross-pollination that comes
There
back
is.
too.
Like, I know people who have subbed to Lure who came through my community, and probably the same thing.
Yeah,
for
every time we do a sub read and there's someone that is extremely, you know, active and present in my community, and like I see how many months they've been subbed to Lure, it's like, oh, cool, they've discovered this and they've moved over. And
we do not have an affiliate program. I'm sorry.
We could start one.
What if we just pivoted to being an MLM?
Yeah.
Good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if we're at the top, then yeah, great.
Okay, but Serge and I are just right below you.
Yeah,
two.
well, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right,
No,
all
don't
right.
worry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you just have to recruit 10 other people.
Yeah.
10 other streamers, and
Yeah,
they get 10
exactly.
others.
Cameron, Kathleen.
Perfect. Perfect. You're, broadly speaking, aboard now, both of you, at different times. You know,
Yeah.
Serge has beat you by a year or two, I think. You know, now what are you working on? What are like the things that you're working on? Earlier this episode, Paul and I talked about the huge project we did in 2018.
Little something called Road Quest.
A little thing called Road Quest.
So that's, I mean, if we're talking about pivot points, Road Quest was a huge pivot point for me.
Yeah.
Because I started streaming, again, months before you pitched the idea to me. Because I was already at the end of about 3 years in tech. It was rocky. We'll just leave it at that.
Because I'm going to, just for some context, because Paul had mentioned Serge hilariously working at every good coffee or food place in town. And you were like, this is neat, but this is not sustainable.
Correct.
So you were like, I'm going into tech.
Yeah.
And at the time, even I was like, okay, because I've seen other folks go into tech and be like, well, I'm here now, but it sucks.
Yeah.
And you
well,
had a
I'm
bad
here
time.
now and it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I worked hard to get there too, but I digress. So I was home streaming, and then Graham approached me and he's like, hey, we've got this really big, ambitious project we need a producer, which I was a project manager when I worked in the tech industry. And it turns out that's the same job, different title.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, I'm actually uniquely qualified to do this. And I hate my job. What a coincidence. What a great idea. And Graham was like,
we want you to do the thing that you hate, but for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love the work because it's just spreadsheets. And God, I love spreadsheets, Paul. I love spreadsheets so much.
Right.
Yeah. But it's like, if I could do the Lure spreadsheets, I was like, yeah, okay. So I quit my job. And if we're talking about really funny moments when you get that email, I was with James. We had just bought the first car for Road Quest. And this was a big deal because there was a lot of research. There's a lot of work leading up to that point.
Oh, it took so long for everyone to settle on their cars.
But also, like, where are we going to park them? What's the legality behind it? How do we insure them? How does all that work?
You have to have 5 to get fleet insurance, so we couldn't qualify for that.
So James is in the car. I take a photo of him in the car, his arms in the air. He's like, we did it. And I get an email from Twitch welcoming me to the partner program.
Wow.
Like,
Dang.
as I'm taking the photo, my phone pops up. I'm like, that's incredible.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so originally I quit my job. I did RoadQuest, and, you know, I worked every single day for like 45 days straight. I did like the whole thing. We did the whole shoot. And then I was like, okay, I've got a bunch of money. Now what? And I was like, maybe I have to go back and get another job in tech. Like, I'm a Twitch partner, but I, you know,
because I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't like give notice at your tech job explicitly to do RoadQuest.
No, it wasn't a hiatus. No, I quit.
Yeah.
I was just like, no, I'm out. I've got this other project, and
it's finally the
both,
excuse.
We both know that like, you're not going to give me 6 weeks off to do this, and so I'm just going to resign, and then maybe we'll talk in the future.
And, you know, as much as we would have liked to, we weren't like,
yeah, no, welcome on at full time forever.
And it's like, we had no other plans to do things like
No.
RoadQuest.
It was a very,
so like that role of producer wouldn't necessarily exist after RoadQuest.
It was a project specific contract.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was thinking about going back to work. I figured that, I don't know if the partner thing was going to work or not. And then you're like, well, Serge, actually, why don't you go down to Magic Fest Vegas? You know, you're doing a lot of work with us. You're well known in the Magic community. You know, travel with Loading Ready Run to this convention. I was like, oh.
All right, let's find out how Serge is doing.
Oh, hey, what's up?
Hi, Serge. How you doing?
Good. I found a new archetype. It's 5-color snow goblins.
That's not an archetype.
In my mind, they all wear toques.
Okay, we're gonna move on from Serge.
And then to PAX West right after that. And I was like, oh. You ready for the secret tech on your first Clipper trip? Well, you bring your Switch, you bring your snacks, your nuts, your chocolate. There we go. I don't know why they're sitting with me. I don't need them. Hey, my chocolate! My snacks, my Switch! Thanks, buddy.
I'm actually upset that you didn't loudly exclaim, my nuts!
That was a lot of fun. And I was doing this whole creator thing, and I just hit partner, and thank God I hit partner at that point, because the channel did nothing for like 6 weeks afterwards. And I don't know if things would have worked out, if there was any other differences. I got very lucky there.
Yeah. Is that the time? Because I didn't go on this particular trip because I had just been away for 2 weeks doing RoadQuest and was away from my family. But was that the time when it was like not even a week after RoadQuest and everyone went to Magic Fest Vegas, and then from there to PAX?
I think so, yeah.
Without coming home?
I think that was the extended trip. It was either that or the year after. I might be conflating. It was great. I loved it.
Oh, no, it sounds awesome.
So I'm like, in my mind, I'm going from this extreme burnout tech scenario to this, I don't want to say rock and roll lifestyle, but just it's night and day in comparison to what I was doing. And then I did a project manager thing, which was like, okay, I have a goal. And what are the steps that I need to achieve it? I was like, okay, how much money do I have to make in a year as a creator to not have to go back? And I made some spreadsheets. What are all of my expenses? What's my revenue right now? What's the ideal revenue I have to hit? What are the steps I have to take to take it? And I gave myself a goal. It's like, if I can hit a milestone by December, I'll keep trying this. And then I hit it. And then a year later, it grew. And then a year later, it grew, and I hired Joe. And now I'm 5 years as a partner, full-time. That's all I do. I'm now working with y'all, again, not necessarily full-time, but like, yeah, this is all I do for employment now. And RoadQuest was that pivot point for my life.
There is that interesting point. I feel like in a lot of creators, and especially like YouTube or streaming, or that kind of stuff, where, you know, especially if you come from the world of regular employment, where you're like, you know, how much money am I making? Where do I get, you know, how do I get a raise? That kind of thing. Then changing it to do that calculation you're talking about, being like, okay, what's the smallest amount of money I can make? It's not what will make me the most money. It's how little money can I make and still be okay?
Can I do this?
I do this?
Yeah.
Which is kind of it's an interesting change, and I think it is an important kind of change in mentality, and it shows sort of like, this is what I want to do, but
well, at the beginning,
we live in this capitalist environment, so, you know, there's a certain amount of you've got to make sure it works.
Yeah, but we're also essentially buskers.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. And you throw the hat out, and you kind of cross your fingers, and you're just like, do you like what I do?
Yeah.
Because I like what I do, and I'd really like to keep doing it, but it's not up to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's called Patreon, right? The patronage.
Yeah.
We will eventually, I promise that someday we will finish like a full behind the scenes of Road Quest. Lord knows we have the footage for it.
Did everyone's room have robes on the back of the doors, or just me?
I also had a robe on the back of my door. I'm also really glad that they decided to make the beds out of soft furniture or soft wood with beveled edges. Because that way when you wang your knee on it the first thing in the morning, it doesn't hurt quite as much.
But what was a bit, just because we have Serge here and we're talking about this sort of thing, what was a challenge that we faced on that the viewers did not see?
So 2 major issues that we had. One, our GoPros kept turning off.
Yep.
On the first day, the cables were disconnecting and the batteries were bad. The first day felt cursed.
The whole first day was absolute hell, actually. I'm amazed that it came out. Yeah, so the problem was the USB cables. It was just the USB cables that we had bought from Amazon. Not that it's Amazon's fault. They're at fault for all kinds of things, but not this. We bought these USB cables that couldn't pass enough charge. And so the GoPros were not getting enough charge from these battery banks. We knew the battery banks were good because Jason had done extensive testing. He plugged 3 GoPros into one of these banks and drove around Dallas for like 8 hours. I don't know why he needed to be driving around for this test to work. Yeah. I guess trying it in a car environment. Anyway, the batteries were not the problem, but the cables wouldn't work, and the GoPros just kept shutting off. And so as soon as the ferry in the very first episode from Nanaimo, as soon as we got to the mainland side in the show, you see us turn left and head up north. What we actually did was turn right for about 20 minutes and go to a Best Buy and buy some incredibly expensive USB cables that worked.
So here's a TLDR of day 1.
Oh, right.
It was 5 a.m. get to the parking lot. Beej's car wouldn't start. We had to jump it. Then on
James's car,
pardon me.
Yeah.
Then on the ferry ride on the drive up to the ferry, to the Nanaimo ferry, we got pulled over by the police, and Jason got a ticket because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt because he was trying to film out the back of the car. Then all the cables started dying, so we had to go and buy extra cables. Then when we pulled over to do a drone shot on the side, Beej's car died.
That was in the episode.
That was in the episode. 2 of the 3 had to turn around to come back, and there's we witnessed and we're semi-responsible for a car crash that happened on the highway. We pulled over and we had the 4-ways on, and somebody overreacted and missed that. And we're like, this is technically not us, but we feel partially responsible because we're Canadian.
It was they were turning off the highway back into the rest stop and slowed down, and the people behind were following too closely, and the people behind them rear-ended them. And they started getting angry at I'm not going to specify who it was, but they started getting angry at the person driving who had pulled in, and we were just sort of like, this is not remotely our fault,
we turned off the road like we're supposed to,
Yeah.
and somebody else rear-ended you.
Yeah, sorry. So we just started ignoring them, and they left us
Then we got
alone.
further and had even more technical issues, and then finally when we pulled into Lillooet.
Yeah, and it was dark.
It was we had been on the road for 18 hours?
Something stupid.
At that point, and there's multiple times on that drive where we're like, it's the first day. Are we done? Can we keep shooting? Have we had enough issues now that no one would fault us if we just stopped?
And on the first day, you can kind of be like, okay, do we just scrap and try it in 2 weeks again?
Yeah.
Or something you're not. Yeah, but oh man.
So that might be something the viewers didn't get.
Yeah,
was just
how
stress.
Incredibly cursed the first day was.
But then everything else was just
everything worked out
sailing.
great. I got to say, I shout outs to Jason Chinnick, the director of photography.
It's all fucked.
We're there at the rest stop on the Sea to Sky Highway, and we're just trying to figure out what's wrong with Beej's car. which, whatever it was, we think it was something actually to do with the power inverter that was different from the other problem that he and Ian are trying to solve later in the episode, which was a piece of gravel getting into something. Anyway, we're there. They're trying to solve it. It's very stressful. Serge is on the phone trying to find like a garage in the next town. Maybe we can get it towed, whatever. And Jason comes over to me and he's like, "Hey, I know you don't want to think about this right now, but this would be a great place to end the first episode."
I remember this conversation. Yeah, he's like, cliffhanger, episode 1.
Yeah, he's like, "I know you wanted like one day of travel for one episode, but if you do the first day in 2 parts, you could end it here and it'd be real good." And I was like, "You're so right, aren't you?" And that's what we ended up doing, because the first episode had all the stuff about the preamble and getting the cars and all that. And it was like, yeah, actually, this works great. And the first episode with a breakdown, perfect.
Great.
Yeah. Anything gone really badly on an episode of North 100?
All the GoPros died.
Yeah. No.
The stakes just aren't as high.
Not really. It's a pretty laid back show. We talk about magic cards. Sometimes we play them.
Hey, speaking of sometimes you play them, North 100 had its own little content baby with North 100 Showdown.
My name is Serge. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Wheeler.
Thank you for having me, Serge. It's great to be here.
Oh, there's an echo. There's so much space.
Oh, sorry. That's just my hunting Moa. It's a card from Urza's Destiny.
Nice.
Yeah, the Canadian Highlander Throwdown.
Yeah.
Which has been going for like almost a year now.
That
Has it
shocks
really?
me.
Or,
Yeah.
or actually a year.
Yeah.
And some of this was born out of, because of course, during the pandemic, North 100, I mean, we did this like horrendous, gear shifting pivot to horrendous in terms of like how quickly it all had to happen into doing stuff remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And after a few North 100s, you were all like, "Hey, I want to keep doing this show, but like none of us are playing Highlander right now because of course no one can go to Yellow Jacket and no one's playing or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And so when we started doing stuff in person, the Highlander scene locally still hadn't quite spun back up, if I'm getting the timeline correctly.
Yeah,
And you were
Highlander locally didn't really start up again until like late 2021, because like Yellow Jacket also moved.
Yeah.
Thick of the pandemic, and once things started to creep back in, even then YJ was like, "No, we're moving. We're old store's closed. Got to get the new store actually up and running and doing anything."
And like, unlike some other formats, Highlander really only works in paper.
So we tried paper webcam as well.
Oh yeah.
And that didn't work because there's a certain tension that comes when you're playing powerful Magic.
Yeah.
And having to be like, "Sorry, Paul, what card is that?" No, the one to your left.
I mean, I'll say it. Webcam Magic just looks bad, and especially when you have people on voice chat, it just doesn't work. The tempo
I do gotta say, I genuinely enjoy Video Commander. Just
pre-recorded is fine.
Okay,
pre-recorded is fine. Live streaming it,
okay.
You just lose.
That's right.
A lot.
If I may, when do you think the first recording of North 100 was? Not when the first episode went live, because
North 100 or North 100 Showdown?
Showdown specifically.
A Canadian Highlander.
Canadian Highlander Throwdown. That Wheeler pegged that phrase, by the way.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Don't use the word pegged like that.
Shoutouts to Maestro Fresh Wes. It's a throwdown, a showdown.
Yeah.
Hell no, I can't slow down.
February.
June?
The first recording was May 12th, 2022. And of course, we tried to bank a bunch. So we did a recording.
Oh,
so
we have been doing this for over a year.
Yeah. May 12th, 2022 was when we started recording that show. That's kind of cool.
Cool.
Gross. We tried Canlander on Magic Online. Like, that was also just what I streamed for like the first year of streaming, was Canadian Highlander on Magic Online. And it wasn't perfect, but it was a thing.
But then Gladiator got invented.
Do you know how Gladiator, or why Gladiator got invented?
I'm pretty. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the intent just like, this is as much of Highlander as we can make on Arena, or the most akin to Highlander?
But why did that idea spark in my head?
Because Magic Online sucks to stream.
Kinda.
Okay.
Cameron was having such a miserable time playing Highlander on Magic Online when we did a Canlander Friday night paper fight.
Right.
And we played on Magic Online, and Cameron was just not having a good time. And I'm just sitting there watching this happen. I'm like, this is just I mean, yeah, Magic Online is pretty bad if you didn't grow up with it or like have an affinity towards that kind of UI, I guess.
And I mean the learning. Yeah, I remember that was like with Magic Online. It's like the learning curve for Magic Online is almost as bad as the learning curve for just Magic itself.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's gotten a lot better. Daybreak does a fantastic job running the client, but it was so bad. And I just remember like thinking, can we just play Highlander on Arena? That's easier than trying to do this, and it's free. And I just remember like going to my mods and being like, hey, I've got an idea. What about this? And then we tried streaming it like the very next day or like over the week. And then it was just like, okay, this is fun and anybody can do it. I still have like the clip on Discord saved where I'm like, let's do this. Let's make a Discord. How about we call it Gladiator sort of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then we internally here at Loading Ready Run, not only have we done many Gladiator nights, certainly during the pandemic, it was super useful of Friday Night Paper Fight doing Gladiator evenings, but we did the great big Gladiator games.
Yeah, which was great. I cried at the end. It was wild.
It was so much fun.
It was, yeah, a lot.
What an absolute fantastic tournament. Ben, before we hand it back over to Maria at the news desk, is there anything you want to say to everybody out there?
Thank you. That's most of what I can get together without blubbering. Yeah. Thank you.
Man, you're making me tear up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Before you simultaneously watch two Benjamins cry live on Twitch TV, we are going to throw it back to Maria.
The way that we did it, by the way, which I love this because this is now how they do the Pro Tour.
Yep.
Is that myself and Matt, who's not a Magic player but has picked up enough over the years through osmosis, would sit down on different computers and like radio in through Discord with the players and start their matches and record everything an hour before we actually started. So the actual tournament was offset by an hour of when we were broadcasting, so that we could broadcast one match, and then if the match was really quick or ran long or whatever, we would know how long it was, and then we could go to another match and we would know again how long it was, so that we weren't like joining halfway through game 3 or whatever. And so we ended up basically doing we would broadcast 2 matches in an hour, but the commentary was live, and then while that first round was being broadcast, the second round was being played and recorded. And we were like, dang, this is such a good system. And that's literally how they do the Pro Tour now.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. Not that I think they got it from us, because we didn't tell people we were doing that at the time. But I was like, hey, all right, nice. So it worked out well.
I could talk about Is This Your Card real quick.
Yeah, do that.
The new weekly stream over here at twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun.
I thought we were going to be up to some wizard bullshit. Like, I don't know why, but I had an idea. Like, I knew that there was deck building involved in cards, and for some reason, I think maybe it's the name, maybe it's like a picture that I saw, like one screenshot. I literally thought it would be like we're making our own potions.
It's just been going for like 2.2 years and like 9 months or something.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
There's a lot of bad games you play.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the fun. There's also some good games. Gotten a little more loosey-goosey with the definition of card game,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah, we
that's
noticed.
okay.
Yeah,
It plays. It's the same thing. Have you seen some of the games they play on Talking Sim? Some of those characters don't even talk.
I died? I died from getting stuck in a cup?
I mean, unbelievable.
When was the last time Corey drew a horse?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's explicitly the name of that one is
Can Draw Horses Club.
Can't. What? Cannot draw horses.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now.
We occasionally would play other card, non-Magic card games, either on CTS digitally or like in person. We played random other games that have come up. We played Digimon one time, and we played various other ones and stuff. And so, this idea of sort of, hey, another that there's all these weird card games out there, all these collectible or collectible card games, especially digital ones.
A lot of anime
that have all their own internal logic and internal
game systems,
communities, and
yeah,
all this kind of stuff. Do you find that you've over the years of doing Is This Your Card, that things have that they're sort of fitting into like broad categories?
The pattern recognition is kicking in.
There's enough different going on
You're
between
like Spire
games.
like, Pokemon like, Magic like, or whatever.
There are a lot of games that try to copy Magic, and there are a lot of games that try to copy Slay the Spire. Some of them do it very well. Some not so much.
I feel like there's a whole genre of digital card games that are made by extremely talented Magic pros who want to make a game that that to their mind fixes the problems that they see in Magic.
What was the Final Fantasy that had the card mini game? Was it 8?
Oh, Triple Triad.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy
when
8.
you do a full playthrough of Final Fantasy 8 just so you could play Triple Triad in it. There you go.
The best
You
part
want me
of
to
Final
do
Fantasy
a
8.
full playthrough of Final Fantasy VIII on Is This Your Card?
It's got a card game in it.
No. Just get like a late game save from somebody, and then just
Okay.
play Triple Triad.
Okay.
It's like for a while there that when Adam was just like fishing and that whatever, I forget what game it was.
Oh, the
Dark
golf
Cloud?
game, whatever.
Oh, Sfada, playing Sfada in Dark Cloud.
Yeah.
Dark Cloud 2. Yeah,
And
just playing golf.
He just was just golfing. Yeah.
Sick.
Okay, reducing it. Oh, I'm so fucking good. No, I'm bad. Well, it could have been worse.
Well, there we go. We have goals for the future. Hey, unless you have anything else to add, I think that'll wrap up this episode.
I
Either
do.
of you? Yes,
Yeah,
Serge, bring it on.
Thank you for having me. It was great to be here.
Lovely. Good.
I have one too.
Yeah?
Got your catchphrase, dude? Oh, can I very quickly talk about the time I met Serge?
Yes.
The first time I met Serge?
Please, yes.
Okay, great. So I'm in YJ, and I'm not, this is like, what, 2011, maybe?
Longer than that, probably, yeah.
2010?
You were a
God,
baby.
We were all babies. And I was just there like on my lunch break, or I just finished work, and I had a deck on me, but I don't believe it was the kind of deck that you were about to challenge me with.
Definitely was not.
Because Serge walks in and gives me the like, hi, I'm new. That kind of attitude. He's like, you want to play, we're chatting up, and he's like, you want to play a game? I'm like, sure, I just have this deck. Is it okay? Like, it might be a little strong. He's like, no, yeah, well, whatever, let's play. We sit down and play. And I believe the sequence of events is as follows. You go like land Soul Ring, and then I'm like, oh, okay. If you don't know Magic, Soul Ring is one of the most broken cards of all time. And the only formats that you're allowed to play them in, you only get one. Only get one. Serge, I play like a normal human being. I just play a tap land or something. Serge untaps and goes Hedron Crab, which is a mill card.
Yep.
I believe you tap your Soul Ring for a second Soul Ring. Again, incredibly illegal everywhere. You play a Strip Mine, which is a land that destroys other people's lands. Again, banned in like everything except where it's legal. You only get one. Crucible of Worlds, which is a card that lets you play lands from your graveyard, thus letting Serge repeatedly mill me out and have me not play any Magic the Gathering. And then after that, I die. I just concede. I think I was the first person. I've theorized this a lot, and I've talked to my chat about this a lot. You are so nice and personable. Nobody has told you no. Or like nobody has stopped what you are doing. I think I may have been the first person where I just go like, dude, what you are doing is not okay. Like I just told you it wasn't okay. And you're like, oh, well, do you want to play again? Like that sort of thing.
So with Crucible of Worlds, I mean, so that first meeting was the point where Serge established himself as the premier lands player. Is that
I didn't.
Well, that was like I gotta get this guy into Highlander.
I didn't realize that when you jokingly refer to Serge as the nicest person to Crucible strip lock you, that this is
our origin
Yeah, that's the origin story.
I had no idea that was how you met.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It might have been like 2008.
No way. It had to be after Zendikar.
It would have
So
been whenever.
I think it was 2000 and I think it was fall 2009.
Also, I love the like Soul Ring into Hedron.
yeah. And your deck had 4 Soul Ring, 4 Strip, 4 Crucible, 4 Crab. I'm pretty sure you had 4 Hymn to Torak.
It's a deck that knew what it wanted to do.
Surge
It's a deck that's illegal
have-
everywhere, dude.
There's this I know that we're going way off on a tangent here, but there in Doctor Who, there's this writing device that they use to explain why people in the past don't go, what the hell is that giant blue box? And they go like, they just sort of, it's technobabble. They just go mumble mumble. It has a perception matrix or whatever it is. It has like a perception field where like you don't really notice it unless you know what you're looking for or whatever, right? So Serge has that, we've discovered, for being just a little guy. It's his birthday.
Just a guy.
Because like any time that we do multiplayer commander content, no matter how much of the clear threat Serge is during the game.
Yeah.
Should someone dare attack Serge? The comments are like, why is everyone beating up on Serge?
Because he's a menace.
No matter how degenerate the deck he's playing is.
Yeah.
I'm just a little guy.
When the devil appears in front of you, it won't be his cloven hooves or the fiery miasma surrounding him. It'll be his first words of, "Hi, friend."
Death will come for you
It's
with
amazing.
a little squeak.
Yeah. It's a thank God you do not have the like ambition to use your power for evil.
I mean, I told Beach on a Friday night paper fight, made him laugh so hard you could hear it on camera from the friend zone, where we're watching Serge just pox out Alex, and I go to Beach and I'm like, "You ever think what it'd be like if Serge was an asshole?"
We wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be able to fight it.
Yeah.
Wow, Wheeler's so good at this.
Did you guys hear Beej howling with laughter?
Yeah, what was that about?
What's Beach laughing about?
Where's your mic? Beej howled with laughter from the other room because we watched what you did, and I asked, "You ever think what it'd be like if Serge was an asshole?"
Ouch.
Wow.
On that note, we will sign off. This has been a pleasure. Serge, thank you for joining us. Wheeler, thank you for joining us. It was great to have you.
Where can folks find you?
Yeah, we talked about both your home streams. Where are they?
Oh,
yeah, when you're not here.
When I'm not here. Okay, I was going to plug the channel.
Loading Ready Run.
You go first because I have way too many.
Me?
Yeah, I got
It's
a lot.
Serge Jaeger on all socials. Serge
Okay.
Jaeger on Twitch, Serge Jaeger on Twitter, Serge Jaeger on Instagram, which is where I'm trying to move now after the social media platform formerly known as Twitter died.
Smart. See, this is not something that I learned early about brand recognition.
It's just my name, my guy.
I know. Well, my name is also my name. Twitch.tv/Benjamin_Wheeler. B Wheeler MTG on Twitch. Also, Shivan Wheeler Love Magic podcast. You can find that.
I think you said B Wheeler MTG on Twitch, but you meant Twitter.
Oh, Twitter.
I guess
Yeah,
you meant
X.
but F that.
B Wheeler MTG on everywhere that isn't Twitch,
Cool.
which is Benjamin_Wheeler.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody. I don't know. I always forget how to sign these off. Patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. I've been Graham, and that's been Paul, and this has been Serge Wheeler, and James has been on tech, and I think Matt's editing these. Okay, bye-bye. See you next episode.